Welcome to GouldFish on Games, where today we're going to be blocking, building, and flying our way through this creative sequel, Lemmings 2: The Tribes. Lemmings 2: The Tribes was initially released for the Amiga in 1993, with ports to many platforms planned from the very start, of which I have the PC and the Snes release. As we've seen quite often, the PC and Amiga share the same box, with just the label in the corner letting us know the versions, and it uses the slipcase design that Psygnosis tended to use for all their games. Inside the Amiga version we get the game on 3 discs. There's a 4th and that's used to save the game, and we also get 2 booklets. One that goes over starting and playing the game, as well as going over all the various skills that we'll find in the game. The second is an introduction guide that teaches us the difference between the previous game and this one. Now normally we would cut away to the game, but I have something a little special to show you, as I happen to have the limited edition version of the game, and it features this cool folding box, and on one side we have a book that was written just for this game, and on the other side we have the game on the floppy disk as well as the regular manuals we've already seen. Now, I have no idea if there's anything missing, or if there was something that went around this box, like a jacket or something, because there seems to be so little information about it online. So if you know anything, please let me know in the comments. I also managed to find the Amiga format cover disc that had the demo on it that I played back in the day. The game starts with an intro, which actually outlines the story. Yes, this game has a barely told story that holds it all together, about the 12 tribes of the Lemmings facing extinction, and they can only be saved if they come together at the Ark with their part of the medallion. And the medallion is wonderfully shown on the map screen, as we can see it at the very edges. As you complete more of the tribes, it slowly moves in, and we can also see all 12 tribes, and you can select which one you want to play straight from the screen. And where else can we start? But with the classic tribe, which, if you haven't guessed from the name, is basically just the same as the original game. And if you're unaware of how you play the game, then your goal is to get the lemmings that fall from the trapdoor to the exit. And the more you save, the better, and this is actually far more important in this game than previous, but we'll dive into that more in a bit. To get them there, you'll use the skills on the bar below and assign them to a lemming when needed. This should form a path that the rest of the lemmings will be able to follow. Now, one improvement that they have included from various ports of the game is the ability to speed everything up, so once you have your plan in place, you won't have to wait long for them to make their way to the exit. Continuing clockwise, we get to the medieval tribe. And it should be obvious to tell that the look of the level, and the lemmings, and even the music is changed for each tribe. But being medieval doesn't mean they don't have modern skills, as they have a jetpack, which we can actually use to show off one of the new standard features, the fan. Now this can blow some skills or objects in the level around. The Egyptian Lemmings starts us off with 3 entrances, which were a staple of later levels in Lemmings. and gives us the first taste of explosives with the rocket launcher. This will not only blow a hole in the level, but will also throw the lemmings around. So be careful you don't knock lemmings out of the level. It also gives us our first look at the new lemming state of being temporarily knocked out. As we move on to the outdoors lemmings, we get to see levels that have multiple ways of being completed, as this one has 2 exits, one of which uses a unique skill to this tribe, the planter, that will, as you might have guessed, place a plant, that grows and will make a bit of a bridge and an incline for the lemmings to climb up. And this actually makes it relatively easy for us to get to the exit on the left, but to the right we can use the spinner and guide it with the fan. As we move on to the sun-tanned beach lemmings, we continue to get new abilities and firsts, like the glue pourer, which is great at filling holes and forming bridges if it hits the end of a platform. But the real special new skill is the laser blaster that drills a hole upwards, which means you can get under where your lemmings are currently stuck and then save them that way. The sporting lemmings has, as you might expect, lots of equipment that you'll have to use or avoid, and we get far more of a maze-like levels than ever before, and finding just the right route becomes very tricky. Aiming your little guys to hit those small targets can be very hard, as if you miss by even just a little, they'll get squished when they hit the ground. The hidden shadow lemmings have us already thinking about using some of the skills we may have used previously, but in interesting new ways. Like using the shape of the flamethrower to remove just enough of the land underneath a button, so you can walk underneath it. When the first Lemmings was made, the colours chosen were based on the limits of the PC platform at the time, but with Lemmings 2 the Amiga has become that limiting factor, with most of the graphics designed to fit around how many colours it could draw on the screen. But every so often this limit was broken on the PC, as we can see with the flame effect being one of them. Now it's great that it's got some extra detail and colour, but it does make it seem a bit out of touch with everything else on the screen. The cave lemmings have to deal with something new, wildlife, that can both help and hinder, as they'll throw you across the level using their tails. But you can't aim them, so you have to work around ones that might not send you where you want to go. Now it's inevitable that at some point you will get stuck on the level, and you can keep attempting it till you get it right. Or you can nuke them all and decide to switch to a different tribe, so you can continue to make progress. It's great being able to jump around, as other tribes might give you ideas that you might not have thought of, and allow you to solve that difficult level. And next, we're off to space with the Space Lemmings. And this is a great time to show off Super Lem, which will make the lemming fly around and follow the cursor, which means you can either get them into place to help the rest of the lemmings, or you can just send them right to the exit. And seeing there's no minimum amount you need to save to win a level, this is actually a valid tactic. But The number of lemmings you save is the amount of lemmings you'll have to work with on the next level, and some of the levels require multiple lemmings to get you to the goal. So you might want to go back and replay some of those earlier levels to save more lemmings, and isn't the goal to try and save as many of them as possible when we get to the Ark? The Polar Lemmings gives us a good look at some of the changes they made for the Snes version, as they used that extra time to add in backgrounds behind all the levels, but on some of them they even added an animated background, like the snow that we can see right here. The Snes version also had some of the skills removed and some of the levels changed. There was also a few other changes like the stunned animation and lack of visual change when some of the skills are applied. With DMA being a Scottish studio, they had to add in the Highland Lemmings, with their ginger hair. Now outside the classic levels, we don't really get blockers. Instead, there's a new skill, the Attractor, who will play an instrument, in this case a set of bagpipes, and any lemmings that are nearby will stop walking and dance instead. The problem with this is that it can also affect the lemming that you've chosen to try and solve the level. And now we've reached the final tribe, the Circus Lemmings. And not only do we have environmental items, but there's also some that we can directly control, as we can move the cannon to help dial in its aiming. As we've seen, the Snes version had a few extras, but what might not have been obvious is they also added support for the Snes mouse, which is so much nicer than trying to use a pad. But there was also one other hidden feature that was added, as if you happen to have the Super Scope, well, you can take your frustrations out on those lemmings directly by shooting them. Ha 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 ha! Die, you annoying critters, die! Lemmings 2 did split the fans. Either you thought that all those extra skills watered down an incredible first game, or like me, you thought that it added to it and made possibly the best game in the series. And on that bombshell, I was the GouldFish, those were some highly skilled rodents, and this was GouldFish on Games. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please consider using the various skills to bash the like, dig the subscribe, or even explode the share. Or you can fast forward to the 2 videos you can see on the screen right now. And until next time, thank you again, and goodbye.